So there you have it. That concludes my first part of the sci-fi genre and looking at George.
Before you go, though, I've got to tell you this. I have to tell you, I have been to Georges Méliès's grave, which is in Père Lachaise in Paris, and somebody wrote on it. They drew a little picture of the moon on his grave, something like with biro, not biro, but like black marker.
Right.
So he's got a bust. He's got like a bust, like sort of Jim Morrison type thing on top of his grave, his head, and then somebody's drawn a little moon, kind of and I think they wrote "Merci" underneath it. In Père Lachaise, if you're ever there, there's all sorts of. Oscar Wilde is buried there, Jim Morrison's buried there, Rossini's buried there, Gertrude Stein, and Georges Méliès.
Wow, that's quite a cast list, yes.
Yeah, and that was the day I should just say this, that was also the same day I proposed to my wife. There you are. And it's all down to Georges Méliès. That's a great story.
Thank you. Well, in the second part, amongst other things, I'll be looking at a sort of, a groundbreaking film, Fritz and Metropolis. I think a few people might have heard of that. So that'll be in the second part. Do we have the clip lined up? Ray, if you just want to introduce this quickly, and then we'll go to the footage.
Oh, okay. Well, earlier this week, in fact, late last week, there was what's called a Failfast Failstival or Fastival or something. Failfast is a scheme that's been running for about a year, and basically the idea is for people to make films very quickly with the idea that it's okay to fail. As long as you learn something in the process. And they have been consistently making a film every month for the last year. So, actually, not quite consistently, they missed 1 month. So there was 11 films in this festival, all written and made and edited and everything within a week. They're written on a Tuesday night in about 2 hours, filmed on a Saturday morning in about 4 hours, and edited later that afternoon. And we saw these films, and I think it was probably the biggest thing to happen to Lancaster since we hanged a load of witches. It was it was brilliant. What did you think?
I mean, it was really good fun. I mean, you could see, I think, the positive effect such a thing could have, and it was, there was no pressure, so...
And there was definitely a progression, wasn't there, through the films?
Yeah, in quality and in... a bit more progressive in the stories.
Was getting better so definitely.
Yeah, there were a few gems in there, I'd say, for sure, and you could see over time that will probably continue to grow and grow.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. And there is, in fact, one happening this Saturday.
Okay.
At Williamson Park, I believe. So if anybody fancies going along, being on a film set, you've got 4 hours, be at Williamson Park, meet by the fountain.
In the freezing cold.
And the freezing cold. I think they're meeting at 9:15, and I will not be there because I don't do that kind of time in the morning. Okay. I do actually, but I have kids and I have to take them to clubs and things. But so you spoke to Abby, Will, and David, didn't you? Who David and Will kind of organised Failfast, and Abby was a punter.
Indeed. So let's play the clip.
Beyond Radio.
Well, this event grew out of LFI, which is Lancaster Film Institute, which is something that myself and David and Lucy, who runs the herbarium, put together as a celebration of a year of Failfast. We're calling ourselves the Institute to be a little bit cheeky, but basically what we do is run screenings and workshops, and we're trying to find ways to kind of lower the barrier for entry to filmmaking and kind of get people experience and get sort of the community involved and that kind of thing.
I heard about it just from knowing people who were involved in the making of some of the things.
I think it's a learn by doing type thing. The idea is I just wanted to create something where people would frequently make films, and it would just kind of get things kind of kick-started a little bit. If you're like me, I really struggled to get it past the writing stage, so I've just kind of wanted to have a platform for people to actually get it past that initial writing stage, really.
I'm more of a theatre person myself, but how I did meet the guys involved here through being in one of their films a long time ago. It was a film called Summer 14. It was a psychological horror thriller film made by Will, one of the founders, I guess, of LFI, and that was a fun learning experience because I've only ever done theatre before then, and so learning to do film acting was amazing, and it was just a ton of fun working with these guys. Yeah.
The purpose of the film Fail Fast workshop is to essentially get filmmakers, people who are either just wanting to get into it or people who have been doing it for a while, to sort of get involved and sort of just work together to create whatever they can within a very short time frame. And the purpose of it is to kind of get all the mistakes in you can onto this one film and just work on it and try and make it as good as you can possibly make it.
Lancaster is such a, for a very small community, it's got a lot of culture sort of brimming just under the surface of it. As long as you know the right people, there seems to be so much going on at every turn, a film festival or a theatre show or things like that. And so having something like LFI that brings that community, gives everybody a chance to sort of come together and collaborate with things and try out different stuff, that existing is just brilliant within our little theatrical and film community.
Well, the idea is really to get people experience on films that in a sense don't matter. The films we've shown tonight were written in 2 hours and shot in 4 hours, and the idea behind it is to sort of come up with a script that is sort of disposable, doesn't kind of matter that much to anybody, so that people can get on-set experience without ruining anybody's passion project.
So when you come to making the film that you actually want to make, you've made those mistakes in a film which is almost like a cannon fodder for your showreel, I guess. So that was kind of the idea, and the actual processes itself is there's a bit of guidelines to it. There's a sort of pre-made character card. So the idea of you have to write sort of certain elements to that character, whether it be sort of what the occupation is, what their secret is, they don't want the other person to know, or even what their backstory is, and that kind of starts their character arc off. And essentially it's just how to kind of craft a sort of well-structured story. And then there's sort of like a structure which we ask people to follow. They don't have to, but they have to know the structure's there and why they would break the rules of that. So that's how we would do it. And eventually we decide on an idea that we like, or an idea that's the most feasible to shoot. And then a few days later we'll be filming that idea when we've sorted out location, who's directing, who's filming, etc. And equipment's provided all by us as well. So
I really enjoyed the event. There was a lot of variety that I wasn't expecting from it all. The advert was fun and ridiculous. A lot of them come under the lines of fun and ridiculous.
When we come to actually filming, obviously, trying to tell that story with as little budget as possible is usually quite a fun challenge, and actually people get quite creative with it.
It's so impressive what they can do in 6 hours, essentially. And it's been so exciting to see them try out different skills. One of them comes in as a writer, but I've also, within this, seen him do camera stuff and acting, and really diversify his talents, as I'm sure all the rest of them are doing within that.
I write and direct mainly, but I definitely feel like it's important, particularly if you're directing, to have an idea of what everybody does on set. So have an idea of what each role actually entails, basically, so you don't end up asking the impossible. So I'm interested in getting experience in sort of every area. I do a bit of editing. I have done a bit of sound and lighting before. I've worked in art departments and kind of every facet, and I'm always keen to sort of get more experience and learn. But mainly for my films, I can write and direct. So I've got a screening coming up for a documentary about the music co-op that I did a couple of years ago. It's called Glass Roof. It's sort of a celebration of what the music co-op's about. So that's at the library in Lancaster on October the 13th, Saturday afternoon at 4:00.
It's whoever fancies going in front of the camera. A lot of people who don't fancy acting at all actually quite enjoy the experience, especially if they're a director and they want to know what it's like to be in front of the camera and what it's like to be directed. They find it quite useful. So yeah, it's whoever's available and whoever's willing to go in front of the camera. We're not going to hold a gun to your head.
Doing the film, I'm very glad actually that my very first day of filming, for other technical reasons, had to be reshot. Maybe there weren't any technical reasons. Maybe my acting was just that terrible on that first day while I was still adjusting to having my audience just centimetres away from my face.
It can be fairly nerve-wracking, but we try and be sort of as accommodating as possible to anybody. And I think, like, you know, we're quite a relaxed group as well, so we're not going to judge people.
I've recently just moved away, but I'm always happy to come back and support these guys. Tons of fun, yeah.
Because we do this session free of charge. What we would actually like to do is kind of get a little bit more, I guess, budget behind what we're doing, just so we can put more of our time into it, apart from anything else. And I think, you know, just to kind of give a little bit more facilities to the filmmakers as well, because, you know, we want to be able to have a location we could use and we can really experiment with. So we want more in terms of like fixed location and just something to give the filmmakers a bit more freedom, I think, rather than being restricted by what's not there.
Yeah, we'll probably do this again because it's gone pretty well tonight. I'm amazed at the numbers that have turned up, and everybody seems to have had fun. So yeah, the workshop is monthly, so in theory this time next year we'll have another 12 films to show everybody.
Sessions run first Tuesday of every month at the Herbarium at 7:30 until about 10:30. Then it's the first Saturday of every month following that. So all done in the same week. We usually have an event which is done through the Lancaster Filmmakers Co-op Group.
The co-op itself meets monthly at the Herbarium. It's the third Friday of every month. It's a sort of an informal meeting. We sort of go around, we talk to everybody and see if there's projects going on, and everybody, you know, if they want to ask for help, find crew, that's the place to sort of meet people and network and that sort of thing. And then we do the Fail Fast workshop on the first Tuesday of every month at the Herbarium again. So we write on a Tuesday evening and we shoot on a Saturday.
So yeah, if anybody's up for it, just come down.
It's official. We're proud to say that we are the best particular radio station with this particular name. Beyond Radio.
We've had a couple of correspondents, and the first one is from regular Ellie Dudley. Hi, Cinema Professor and Ray.
Hello.
Hope you are both well. What do you guys think makes a great sci-fi film? What are your favourite sci-fi films? Great show as always. Please say hello to Johnny Rhodes. Again, the little tinker from Ellie. Hello, Johnny Rhodes.
Hello, Johnny Rhodes.
Cool stuff. Well, the second question we won't answer just yet because at some point we will be doing our list of our favourite sci-fis. But the first one, Ray, do you want to take that? What makes a great sci-fi?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I think like anything, it's good stories and, you know, I suppose the thing that sci-fi can do is it can tackle bigger issues, can't it? It can like tackle the issues of where are we going as a race or as a species, you know, and what's out there. And, you know, whereas, you know, I mean, a kind of Woody Allen melodrama is all about what's in there, you know. This is about what's out there, and where are we going. And so I suppose that's partly it. But I think it's like any other story. For me, it's just if it works emotionally, if it works intellectually. I'm a bit wary of using that word, but if it works, if it's a good story. Sling a spaceship into the middle of it, and it's a good sci-fi story.
I think I'm sort of on the same sort of tracks. I think it's that idea that you can use real-world issues but depict them in a different way, in a more fantasy setting, or you can have that leap of imagination and sort of say, well, the way things are going, we could see things going this way.
Yeah, I think that's something that sci-fi particularly does very well, isn't it? You know, like if you take not George Bush, Donald Trump or something, to its kind of logical conclusion and say, this is what will be the result in 30 years' time, you know, or 40 years.
Yeah, you take real-world sort of politics and all themes and sort of, it's a leap of imagination, say, well, this could well happen if we continue along a certain path. And it's also, the sense of, sometimes the other side of it is the sense of adventure. You know, they can be very enjoyable and, just a lot of fun as well. So you get the two different sides, which we'll talk about in the coming weeks.
I mean, I was going to just say, I think there's a thing, isn't there, when if you're channel hopping ever, and I don't know about you, but me, if I'm channel hopping on the telly and I see a spaceship, I'm gonna sit and watch that a little bit. You know, there's something very comforting about even bad sci-fi films.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention Prometheus, which I think was just truly dreadful. But you know, if I turned it on the telly, saw the spaceship, I'd kind of, this might be interesting in a way that if I turned on the telly and there was somebody driving along in their car, I wouldn't. Probably.
Yeah, it's more mundane.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something about
yeah.
seeing a spaceship, you know, that makes you, so I understand why it's such a popular genre. I think, you know, it's very easy to like.
Yeah. So sometimes even if the story and the characters aren't quite doing it for you, you
bit
still
like Prometheus.
you're still going to get some visual pleasure out of it, and
yeah, but I don't even know if it's
puts
that.
you in a different space.
I think that's it. It's that you are so out of your normal everyday that it's kind of even when it's not good, it's kind of at least kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
I hope that
cool. Thanks, Ellie. And we have a second email, I believe. It's just that one. Okay, on that subject. Thank you, Ellie, once again. So I'll do some listings later, I think, but we have a few film reviews. Last week, really, me and Ray both saw Miseducation of Cameron Post. So, Ray, set it up and give your thoughts on the film.
Well, I mean, it's essentially, I think it's a kind of extremely popular novel by Emily Danforth.
Okay.
I think it's kind of aimed at teenagers. And it is about a young girl who discovers she is gay and is discovered by her parents and is sent away to be cured. If that's the right word.
Set in the early 90s.
Set in the early 90s. I mean, I thought it was really fantastic. I think it's possibly one of the best films I've seen this year, he says, slightly. I mean, it won the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance this year.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah. And, I mean, just fabulous cast, fabulous script, fabulous everything, really. And considering there's a sort of subject matter that could very easily kind of spiral into cliches and sort of stereotypes and stuff. And you could very easily have pantomime villains and sort of, sort of almost pantomime princesses, as heroes. It doesn't do that. I mean, I will say it doesn't completely avoid stereotypes, but I think part of that, no, that's not true. It does kind of avoid stereotypes, but it doesn't completely avoid some cliches, I think. There's certain things you'll say, well, that's going to go that way, and it kind of does. But, I think it kind of, deals with that. It does it very, very well. I don't want to give too much of the plot away, but it does it really, really well, and it kind of gives it an interesting twist, I think. It gives it a sort of, maybe not twist, but it does it in a way that's not kind of sort of banging you over the head, really. And I really appreciated that. So I mean, this is definitely recommend this film to a lot of people. And to me, I mean, when I was watching it, it made me quite angry. I don't know about you.
It did.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, it is basically depicting, and in a kind of very gentle way, but it is depicting child abuse. Really, I mean, it's quite horrific, sort of, that this happens, and I think it's being outlawed at the moment, but I think it is legal.
Yeah, something that's.
I'm not sure about in this country, but in America, it is legal. So the other thing we should mention, the star of it, Chloe Grace Moretz. Was also in the film about George Méliès, just to bring it back to science fiction, Hugo, the Martin Scorsese film, Hugo. And she was the girl in that. And she's fabulous. And Sacha Lane is also in it, who was in American Honey.
Honey, yes.
And Jennifer Ehle, who's the nearest you get to a kind of villain in this, who was obviously in Pride and Prejudice as Elizabeth Bennet.
Yeah, for ages I was trying to figure out who that was.
Me
The face
too.
looked
Yeah.
so familiar, yeah.
But she's having quite a Hollywood career. She's in 50 Shades of Grey and Zero Dark 30.
Oh, right,
things
real
like that.
variety
Yeah, no,
then.
she's having a Hollywood career.
Yeah.
And she's very good. I mean, she is convincingly sort of not so much evil. Well, I suppose evil, but she's kind of manipulative and just kind of gets her own way by any means possible. And I mean, she is. But what's kind of interesting, I think, what I really liked about the film is that ultimately, I mean, without trying to give too much away, I'm thinking, am I giving? But I don't think I am. The victim of the film is not Cameron Post or Jane, who's the character played by Sacha Lane, who are the kind of, I don't know what you call them, the inmates of this this camp. But it's more the guy who's playing Jennifer Ehle's brother, who's kind of running the camp. Ultimately, kind of comes out as the person you're sort of not exactly rooting for, but you feel the most sorry for. I think in the end, he seems to be the most damaged of all of them. That was
potentially, yeah. I can see why you would think that, because obviously, with the main sort of protagonist, there is a certain amount of liberation, and without giving away how it all ends, I mean, there is a rebellion from them and an ultimate sort of release, and they kind of know.
Well, you pretty much get the impression
mostly that this is all messed up, and this is.
I mean, they don't seem to be. None of them are actually being converted, are they? I mean, they're just hanging out with each other, and
Yeah, I mean, to some of them, they use it as a bit of a joke. To some of them, they're really angry about it and say, this is obviously. And some of them, they kind of go along with it, but not in a way where they're being sort of converted just because they don't have a lot of choice.
Yeah, I mean, they're going along with it because they want to go home. I mean, that's largely, they know that. But yeah, if you want to get really furious, and if you're a parent and you go along and you just sit there thinking, who would do this to their child? But people do, and weirdly, I mean, it's done out of love. I think that's the really slightly even more disturbing thing about it. It's.
Well, I was going to say that because obviously there's a really emotional scene involving her on the phone to her mother. And I mean, it's beautifully intimate because she's tucked away in this intimate, space, this cupboard, and they're on the phone and she just breaks down and they say they love each other. But at the same time, the mother is still very much in the mindset, this is the best place for you. So it's a divided sort of scene where, on the other hand, the mother is just blind to this and can't see
I think she genuinely thinks she's doing the best.
Yeah. But it's such an emotional and beautiful scene, and I think Moretz gives a flawless performance. She really balances all the different emotions and stages of the character, and it's a really naturalistic performance from her too. And it is a really roller coaster sort of ride, but I think it really tackles the subject in a sensitive way.
Yeah, no, definitely does. Yeah.
And celebrates the spirit of these characters as well in the face of adversity. But so I'm with you. I mean, it's a film to make you furious. It's very upsetting that this sort of thing still goes on in this day and age. But there's a lot to the film, really. It's a very, very good film.
So I don't know if you know, but Chloe Moretz has two gay brothers, and she was raised in a highly Christian family, and apparently they came out and were not, their parents were completely fine with it, but apparently she in an interview, I saw an interview saying that they tried before they came out, they tried to pray the gay away, which is apparently their phrase.
Yeah, I've heard this. I've heard it.
Yeah, and so that's what, they did that. It didn't work. They came out and their parents were fine about it, thank God.
Yeah.
It's an ironic
phrase.
But,
extraordinary.
But the community they were raised in was highly Christian as well, I think. And I think some of the people in that community were not so approving. But, but she's been quite sort of outspoken on sort of gay rights and things like that, I think.
Yeah.
Although I don't really know what she said.
But no, yeah, you could see how that would be an inspiration for her wanting to do the film. But yeah, so there you have it. A big thumbs up from both
Definitely
of
a
us.
big thumbs up.
We highly recommend it. It's called The Miseducation of Cameron Post, and likely to be in both of our lists come the end of the year. Ray, do you have something to say?
I was just going to say, as a little plug, if you're into horror films, on the 16th of this month at the Gregson at 8 o'clock, we are showing a silent horror movie from 1913, which is The Student of Prague, based on a Edgar Allan Poe book and directed by Paul Wegener, who was the star and director of Der Golem, if anyone's seen that rather amazing horror movie as well. So that's the 16th at 8 o'clock at the Gregson.
16th.
We do start the film sharp. Also got a Laurel and Hardy short with it. There you go.
Just for balance.
Just to change the mood entirely. Give a little plug in.